and welcome in to another episode of In the Crease podcast with head coach John Galloway, brought to you by Baptist Health. Coach, another day, another W. Gotta be a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. You know, to win at home again, to be able to go 2-0 in the conference, it's a step in the right direction. We took some, I thought we did some things that are uncharacteristic, but
sure,
nice to get a win and be able to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that from you. There was some frustration on the field, which, when you're playing what could be perceived as a lesser opponent, the expectations don't change, right? Not going to be shy about it. Like, you guys have a certain level of expectations for yourself, and you've seen a lot of good things these last few weeks. And like you talked about in your quote in the story, there were some lapses in places, but thankfully we were lifted by some incredible performance by some of our guys. If you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I think, we said it after the game, without the face-off and the goaltending, I don't know what the result of that game is. So I think Jason made not only a lot of saves, but he made timely saves to give us a chance to get the ball back. And then obviously the face-off dominance with Nathan and that unit put us in a position where we could make a lot of mistakes, and you didn't feel it on the scoreboard, and it was enough for us to put us in a good position.
Yeah, you just mentioned Nathan. He, breaking news for you, he's going to be named the SoCon Defensive Player of the Week.
Wow.
So, by the time anyone's hearing this, that news will be out, and fancy graphics and awards. He's been a guy who has sort of emerged this year. You had the big 28 face-off game against Bellarmine, and now this 26 face-off wins against VMI. Contextualize him a little bit for us, how far he's come in his improvement.
Yeah, it's amazing. Nathan last year was a freshman from Wisconsin. He really had to upgrade his stick work. He's a hard worker. He's a hard worker in the weight room. He's a hard worker on the field. He's committed to his craft. I think with him and Coach Colpitz, the amount of time they spend on the field with just their skill work. I think people that don't understand the position, to win that many draws is one thing. To be able to gain the possession is a whole other battle. And for him to do that under duress, under a lot of pressure, 90-degree day, he took almost every rep. That's not easy. And I think that his conditioning, his strength, and his work ethic has put him in this position where he's having a lot of success on game day.
Yeah, the 18 ground balls, one of the best performances in program history. I believe the third best effort in SoCon history. That speaks just a lot about his ability to pick the thing up. And then, once again, Mr. Everything, Jack Dolan, just doing his thing, 7 more points. Again, we spread it around with the 18 goals. We talked last week about a bunch of shakeups you made to the attack. How'd that look in sort of week 2, week 3 here with that?
Yeah, I can't speak enough on what Jack Dolan has done in 3 weeks. I think from the Duke game, he didn't give enough chances to showcase what his ability is at the attack. And you saw over the last 3 weeks his comfort level with Jacob and Matt Sagnita and Curtis Goddard. He's the QB, and he runs the show. And even when things aren't going well, you can see Jack can kind of bring it back together. And he had 7 points. He could have had 10. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the characteristic of having a guy like that on the field for 60 minutes is you always have somebody who's going to do the right thing. And it gave us a lot of great opportunities.
Looking ahead now, taking a little break from conference play to head up to Rock Hill, South Carolina for a game with Robert Morris. Not unfamiliar to this program, playing Robert Morris. Preview that matchup for us a little bit.
Huge matchup. Robert Morris offensively is averaging almost 14 goals a game. They have 2 of the best attackmen we'll see all year. And Jimmy Perkins, who was at Utah last year, and the kid Smith, the number 1, who's just a big, strong righty Canadian. Really unique skill set. They do a lot of things in between the lines that you don't see. I kind of equate Robert Morris to Georgia Tech in football, where you have to, you plan all week for these opponents, and all of a sudden you have to plan for the triple option. Mm-hmm. And they are very similar in that they do just so many unique things with their offense. Defensively, they're high pressure, face-off game, they double the ball. So we're going to have our work cut out for us, and we're going to have to prepare more than ever before this week to see some things we just don't normally see on a week-to-week basis.
What's that like? How do you keep the guys centered on the goal here when you take a break in the middle of conference play? You've got the high of going 2-0 now in conference play, and bringing that back to, okay, this game isn't for conference implications, but it's equally as important. And then you have to dive back into conference play the following week. How do you keep that? What's the messaging there to keep things aligned?
Yeah, I think it's just a chance for us to get better. We could have taken a bye week. We could have taken this weekend and just tried to catch our breath. But sure. After the VMI game, I'm so glad we have another game on the calendar. I think for us to learn how to execute in the heat, and learn for our young guys to be in those moments. I mean, we've played 8 games, but we've also only played 8 games. And I feel like for us as a young unit, especially in certain areas, every game rep means a little bit more. And if that helps us prepare for Air Force on April 10th, well, it was time well spent this weekend.
Yep, you just mentioned Air Force, April 10th. That'll be the return to conference play. Always a big game. That game will be on CBS Sports Network. Still working on the time. We'll get that figured out. You know, you've mentioned it a couple times now. You're getting that rotation figured out. Are there any guys out there that are still kind of rising that we might see that we might not have seen much of late?
Yeah, I think having Jake Antonucci back last weekend from injury was huge. I think as he each week gets stronger, gets back into the flow of things. I mean, he was one of our most impactful players a month ago, and we've missed him. And I think having him back in the rotation helps us. I think Zach Deacon is a quiet assassin in how he's playing. I don't think people realize how valuable he is in the face-off game on the defensive unit. And then offensively, I think, again, Jacob Greiner getting his feet wet. You know, now game 3, starting to get more minutes. We've kind of kept him on a pitch count just to get him back in shape, but every time he's out there, something good happens. So I think that'll be exciting to see him develop as we go into the rest of the conference.
Coach, a pleasure as always catching up with you. Anything you want to hit us with on the way out here?
No, you can tell I'm fighting through my voice here to, 2 good practices, Monday, Tuesday at 6 a.m. The guys responded to the challenges from VMI, and ultimately you win games Monday through Friday. And I thought so far so good, but we got 2 big ones coming up on Thursday and Friday.
All right, Coach. Thanks for hanging out with us. Again, another edition of In the Crease podcast brought to you by Baptist Health. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Cool.